Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, the new and revamped Never-Ending Referrals with your MAPS coaches, Steve Schlueter and Tammy Youngst. Please note this webinar is being recorded and you'll automatically receive the webinar recording. If you have questions for your coach, please type them into the questions box located in your webinar taskbar. Following the webinar, if you have any questions about today's call or coaching program, please email us at fasttrack@kw.com. All right, that's all from me. Tammy and Steve, go ahead and take it away.
Wow, thank you, Jasmine. That was efficient. Got it knocked out. Leaving us, time to talk about our favorite subject. What's our favorite subject, Tammy?
I don't know, Steve. I think it's called a database.
It's called the database. It's all about never-ending referrals. Hey, welcome to our webinar, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Steve Schlueter, and with us from Mooresville, North Carolina, Tammy Youngst. And we're kind of your tag team of coaches here on Never-Ending Referrals. And Tammy, tell them a little bit about Tammy.
Well, thanks, Steve. Yeah, as Steve said, I am in the Lake Norman Mooresville area of the country. I am also a MAPS Bold coach, as well as partner with Steve in our Never-Ending Referrals. I am married to Bruce and stepped out of sales in 2015, handed my team over to Bruce, and being a MAPS coach is my full-time gig.
All right. And by the way, what Tammy's one of the specialties, Tammy's specialty to the team here is technology. Tammy's a technology roadshow instructor. She does our technology tutorials here around Never-Ending Referrals, helping you, use command, use the tools that we have available. And by the way, the technology that we teach here is not CRM specific. So you can use an e-edge, you can use just about any tool out there. My name's Steve Schlueter. I live in San Antonio, Texas, and I got to tell you guys, I've been with Keller Williams since there were 3,600 agents. I had the good fortune of being a team leader in the Northwest Market Center. Prior to that, had been Northwest Market Center in Austin, Texas, with Gary Keller as my OP. Prior to that, was a mega agent at REMAX, one of the top 20 REMAX agents in the state of Texas. And built a business that didn't start with database, and yet I always knew it was the end game. And all my lead generation and prospecting was with the end game of building a powerful database. And so you've got two people right here that are very passionate about this topic. And well, welcome to the journey. And let's get started today. And first, the questions box. This is the best way to engage us during the webinar. Is go and post a question. In fact, to get you familiar with it, why don't you go to the questions box right now and type in the city you're with us from today. Let's see what parts of the country we've got covered, and this way we know you're hearing us. So just go to the questions box, type in the city you're with us from today. Let's see if we can get that. Got the Woodlands, Texas, Charlotte. Hey, you probably know Tom Turner up there in Charlotte, don't you? There.
I do know Tom Turner.
Tom Turner's in the house. Neil from Yuma, Honolulu, all the way across the Pacific there. Thanks, Sean. We got Indian Trail, North Carolina, Halifax, Philadelphia, Treasure Coast, Jacksonville. We got some Weatherford, Texas. Hey, Maureen. We got Maryland in the house, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Fresno, Naperville. Hey, Elizabeth. Flowood, Mississippi. Hey, my daughter lives over there. She's a Mississippi State grad, Dietrich. So good stuff. Kauai, Hawaii, the land of roosters. Yes, I had roosters. They don't know the difference between day and night, those roosters and chickens there in Hawaii. All right, we're going to get started. Let's get the party started. Thank you so much for chiming in. I'm going to clear our questions box so that you can engage with us. And Ocala's in the house. Let's get going. Now, first and foremost, possible reasons. Why did you? I don't think you showed up here just because you didn't have anything better to do. And if that's the case, well, we'll do our best to entertain you. And some of the possible reasons people today are showing up and they're wanting to be engaged in a conversation around the database. Well, number one, we got a lot of tools coming our way at our disposal, and yet how do I make the most of those tools? Maybe you're like so many and search engine optimization just isn't working for you anymore. Paying for leads seems like a dead end or, just ridiculous cost. And we're looking for a more elegant way to do business. Maybe we're tired of chasing business and we want to start to attract business. And that's really what this conversation we're going to begin with you today is all about. It's how do we begin chasing and how do we start attracting? How do we have a more elegant relationship-based business versus a transactional business? And so let's begin that journey. And I'd like to start with a little math exercise. And I think there's an opportunity here for us to get clear of there's some hidden riches in our database. And sometimes people, well, they haven't monetized this. They don't really understand how much opportunity resides for me. Is it worth the effort? Is it worth being as intentional as it might require for me to get the true results that I might, that are there? What is the real opportunity? And we're going to begin with looking at that today. And so get ready to do a little math and then write down your number when you're done, because this is going to be an opportunity. So here's my question for you. How many people are in your MET database? Now, let me define that for a second. MET database would be people that you know and they know you. And it could be at an acquaintance level. It doesn't have to be best friends or past clients. It's your sphere of influence. So that's A. Think about how many people are, and if it's not organized, how many people would be in my database? Best guess, if I don't have it put together, how many would be in there? That's going to be A. Now for B, I want you to write down right below A, just put 0.10. So we're going to multiply A by 0.10. So if A was 200 and I did times 0.10 as B, C would be 20. So you're going to take, C is going to be 10% of A. So take A times 0.10. Real simple math formula. And then I'd like you to subtract C from B. So your 10% calculation, I told you right wrong. B is going to be what is A times 10%. I got to get my math right, Tammy.
Like, whoa, wait a minute.
So it's A times 10% equals B. So if it's 200 on A, it's going to be, B is going to be 20. A times 10% is B. Then you're going to subtract the closings you had in 2018. So how many closings did you have in 2018? That goes in C. Subtract it from B to get your gap. So B minus C equals what we would call your gap. And then take your gap on D times your average commission. Excuse me if I got my double talk wrong on math. So one more time, your database number, if it's 200, would go in A. 10% of that would go in B, so 10% of 200 would be 20. If I closed 12 last year, that would go in C. I'm going to subtract C from B, so if I had 20 in B, I'd subtract the 12, I'd have 8 in D. And my average commission, if it were 7,000, it'd be 8 times 7 would be 56,000. So trust we got the math sorted out. So here's my question for you. How much opportunity is available to you by simply getting a 10% return on your database? How much additional opportunity? The gap between what you're realizing right now from your database. So if C was 12 and I had the capacity to do 20, I left 8 on the table, which would be D, times my average commission, what would that be? I'm going to put up a little poll, and I want you to tell me what your number range was. Let's just kind of get a sense of this, of what is the opportunity. And let's look at this real quick. So the hidden riches of my database and my 10% database opportunity equals 1 to $30,000, 30 to $60,000, 60 to 100, more than 100, or am I one of the fortunate few who's at a 10% or better return, meaning you would have had a negative number? Let's kind of see where the audience is. Let's get everybody to vote here. Chime in with your math. We'll give it another 20 seconds. You can finish up your math equation. Let's see what your opportunity is. All right, I'm going to give it a second, and I'm going to close the poll. Let's get a few more. All right, closing the poll. Let's see what we've got. So when I look at the results, so isn't this interesting? We've got about the biggest majority have got about a $30,000 to $60,000 opportunity. Nobody was at a 10% return, so we've got a number of people, Tammy, that are up to about 30,000 still reside in their database in terms of opportunity. 6%, 60 to 100,000. We got 25%. You add the 6%, you got 31% of you have $60,000 or more in opportunity residing in your database right now of dollars that you're currently not realizing today. And so 38% of you have $30,000 to $60,000. And so when we look at this, gosh, roughly 70% of us have a $30,000 annual raise or better, residing in our database right now. So let's dig into this and let's talk about, how we might, tap into that. What are some opportunities? And yet there's one question I'd like to ask you, and it's this. And I'm going to ask you a really crazy question. And I want you to think before you answer. What's your favorite touring musician? Well, maybe you don't have to think. You just know. If Tammy, who's your favorite touring musician out there?
Keith Urban.
Keith Urban. So I want y'all to play along with this conversation I'm going to have with Tammy, and I want to explore it. So let's say that Tammy and I are having a conversation. In fact, and Tammy tells me she's got 200 in her database. And here's the interesting thing. I know that Tammy's really social. I know she's, she's been very involved with her kids and family activities over the years, and she's lived in her market, a long time. I can't imagine that Tammy's only got 250 in her database. So I asked Tammy this crazy question: who's your favorite touring musician? She tells me Keith Urban. And so Tammy, let me ask you this. So Tammy, let's say you won a contest, MTV or CMTV was putting on a contest, and you won a contest where Keith Urban was going to play your 4th of July party. Would that be okay?
That would be more than okay.
That'd be more than okay. And so Keith Urban's going to play your 4th of July party. And by the way, it's the hottest ticket in town. Everybody wants to be at Tammy's 4th of July party. And, well, I say, Tammy, here's how they get in the door. They have to come to the door, and they can't be real estate agents, and they've got to be reasonably local. I said, if they had to come to the door and say, here's how I know Tammy, is at least through acquaintance, or I know her through her children's activities, or we used to work together, and we she would know who I am and I know who she is. There's a connection there. Tammy, how many people would be at your Keith Urban 4th of July blowout?
Oh my gosh. Steve, at least I would say 650, 700.
650 or 700. How many did you write down that you had in your database, Tammy?
Oh, wow. 250.
So what's the difference between 250 and 650?
A lot, like 400.
$400. Or not $400, 400 people. Yeah. Now here's the thing, folks. So here's the conversation. Is whatever, you've got to answer that question for yourself. How many would be at your 4th of July party? And is it greater than the number you wrote down in A just a moment ago? In fact, in the questions box, if you were to ask yourself that question, how many more would you have than the number that you wrote in A just a moment ago that you said were in your database? Go to the question box. How many more would you have? Let's see if we can get a little engagement here from the audience. Just put it in the questions box. 300. Okay, another 300. 400. About the same. Okay. Another 75, 80. Okay. So, some of you've got some pretty good opportunity. And so when we look at this, Elizabeth says 75. And, remember, for every 10, there's one transaction, there's one referral, there's a transaction, there's a repeat. So Elizabeth, even though it's adding 75, when you identify who those are, that's 7 to 8 additional transactions a year that you can give yourself a raise in when you simply start working those relationships. So whatever your number is that's different, getting that clarity. So it doesn't have to be a big number. Just remember, every 10, makes a difference. So let's switch gears for a second. I want to just jump into this and kind of shed some perspective on this journey of generating referrals. Tony DeCello, the gentleman have pictured here, you may be familiar with, and Tony, back in 2008, was asked by Gary Keller to take the Shift book on tour. Tony did a 58-city tour of the Shift book, and I happened to be Tony's backup. We went from city to city, and I went with him on the first few locations to get familiar with the conversation we were having with the audience. And we were in Chicago at our first location, 700 people. And Tony asked a question to the audience. He said, how many of you are touching your Met database 28 to 33 times a year? Please stand up. And to our surprise, only about 15% of the room stood up. And then he asked a deeper clarifying question. He said, well, how many of you that are standing are doing a pure 33 touch, meaning you're actually having a conversation with your database, phone or face-to-face, or today might even be messaging or text, at least two-way, at least 4 times a year. And Tammy, it went from 15% of the room standing, which we already thought was not a great number. It went from 15% of the room standing to only 3%.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was our response. It was more like, ouch, was our response. And Tony and I coined this the 3% crisis, because it was something that we began to see, ladies and gentlemen, room after room. We tested this room after room, unfortunately, year after year. And we got really clear that something had to be done to address that. And this ultimately, it took us a few years to begin to find the answers. And the answer became something that ultimately evolved into this program called Never Ending Referrals that you get to participate in here today. So let's touch on this. And I want to share with you what Never Ending Referrals does. And if you're familiar with the 6 personal perspectives with Keller Williams, one of the concepts we talk about is E to P, and stands for entrepreneurial to purposeful. And if you look at this graph right here where it talks about E, you notice that this big black line we call the ceiling of achievement. And the truth is we all hit them. We all hit ceilings of achievement in our life and our business. And if we don't make a breakthrough pretty quickly, well, this little journey of disappointment shows up. Our self-talk is, man, this is so hard. I thought it would be easier. And if it's not careful, it goes to resignation. And beyond that, if we stay in resignation too long, thinking this is not going to get any better, this is as good as it's going to get, at some point we go in search of greener pastures. Meaning, Tammy, I'm going to go be a loan officer. Those folks got it made, right? They just go get a couple of good agents and they're set.
They do.
And yet, here's the challenge, folks. If you haven't dealt with the fundamental things that put you at a ceiling, you're going to stay at that ceiling. And it's going to be a repeating cycle. And so Gary Keller shares with us the answer is going from entrepreneurial to purposeful. And this is how we create breakthroughs in our business. And I'd like you to write down these 5 words for a purposeful style, if you would. Please write them down. And they're focus, strategic options, models, systems, and accountability. So it's focus, strategic options, models, systems, and accountability. Now, I'd like you to take a moment and put an asterisk next to the word focus and an asterisk next to the word accountability. Can't say that word real good, Tammy. Asterisk. And here's something Gary Keller taught me. He said, focus and accountability are where most people go first. They say, if I'm just focused enough and I'm just accountable, that I'll get the results that I desire. And Gary taught me, he said that is folly. He said, in fact, he coined it the high achiever's curse. He said the high achiever thinks they can always do it on willpower if they're just accountable to an outcome that they can get it done. And what he said is that focus and accountability are the bookends. And he said the most important part of purposeful is the middle three. And the middle three being those strategic options, the models, the systems. And what he said, and now how does this apply to a database? Well, there are certain options that are right for every person as it relates to being successful with the database. There are certain models that are just the standards of how you succeed with it, and there are systems that you have to adopt to make it work at a really high level. So what Never Ending Referrals does, it develops the options, models, and systems that are right for you, that your personalized plan to have success with the database. And Tammy, strategic options are, what does that mean? Well, Tammy, if you live in a place your whole life and that's where you conduct real estate and you're social, you might know 1,000 people, and the options for you attacking this thing called a database are different than the person like I was when I started real estate. I had lived in Austin less than a year and I knew 26 people. And so the options are going to be different based upon where you are today, and yet through the program, we're going to help you explore the right option that's right for you. Just because you have 26 doesn't mean you can be successful in a database. It's just that the model around feeding a database is going to be different for you than a person who already has 1,000. So I want you to understand that this little conversation and why it's critical that you get the middle three. See, Gary said, once you get the middle three pinned down, then you bring the focus. Then you bring the accountability to the middle three. So I want to share something with you. We talked about the 3% crisis, and Zillow did a housing study. They polled 13,249 households, and these folks had closed on a home at least a year prior. And they asked about the frequency of contact they had from their real estate agent, and here's what they heard. 74% never heard from their agent a year out. 20% answered occasionally, only 6% answered regularly. So Tammy, it just goes to validate what Tony and I discovered, out on, that Shift book tour. This is a situation you guys aren't alone. If you're struggling with your database, and you haven't put it together, it's because you're probably lacking that middle three, the strategic options, the models, the systems in which to bring focus and accountability to. Now, we did, the survey we just did, Tammy, we did that with a group of 229 agents, and out of a large group of 229, we've got 64 of y'all on here today. We had 59 people had 60,000 or more opportunity, and only 2% out of a sample group of 229 were already at a 2% return. So they're not alone, are they, Tammy?
No, I mean, Steve, those numbers really don't change. And, it goes back to, how long even the National Association of Realtors has been, polling people who have sold a home or purchased a home over the last year. And that percentage that don't hear from their agent really hasn't changed, over the years.
Yeah. Well, and the ones that they're not hearing from are usually the ones that don't last in this industry. It becomes tough to build a sustainable business, through shifts and through market changes. I share this slide with you. You've heard Gary talk about the fourth industrial revolution, AI and big data, and you've got disruptive companies coming in our industry today. And what we're really talking about is why this is important, that you get command of your database, pun intended, by the way, is this little wheel right here, this 8 slices represents an 8.18 year, I'm just going to call it an 8-year buy-sell cycle. There's some that are saying the cycle's now 10. It's not too clearly defined yet because we had just come out of that big, shift in the market, and the new normals are asserting themselves. And yet it's 8 to 10 years between buy and sell. And you have all these companies, and when Gary talks about AI and big data, You have these companies like Open Door, OfferPad, Purple Bricks, Redfin, Zillow. The big data, the AI, is all going into, see, this represents one person in 8 years. It's one person in your database. And the AI is attempting to figure out, when is this person going to transact real estate? Based upon their clicks, where they engage, how long they've been in their house, key metrics that they're analyzing to determine predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics, dictates who they go chasing or marketing to. And so the AI and the big data is looking for that slice of pie of when somebody is going to do something. And then it goes and attacks what the prescriptive analytics dictate. Now, there's a different game to play. It's the referral game. And let me tell you about a Harris poll. Larry Kendall had commissioned this Harris poll. And the question was asked, how many people did you know that transacted real estate last year? And what they determined is each American household with very high percentage knew at least 4 people that moved the last year. Now, some of them they knew before they moved, some of them they found out during a move process, some of them post-move. So, and yet every household knowing 4 people transacting real estate, or who moved anyway last year, it could have been a rental, but at least moved. Think about that for a moment. So think about how that plays into the game. So we go back to that little circle. And if we look at this representing one 8-year cycle again of a relationship. Now, all of a sudden, we put the 4 in here. Remember, the AI is looking for the green year, that year when somebody's going to do a transaction. And yet, that relationship you have in your database, every year, they know at least 4 people that are going to transact real estate. And in the green year here, the 8th year, well, that's the 2 they know, the 4 they know, plus their sell side and their buy side. And so when we look at that, that means any one relationship in your database is 34 potential transactions per cycle. Most of them being referral, 32 of them being referral. And by the way, if you had a client in 4 8-year cycles in your career, that would be 136 opportunities in 4 8-year cycles. What do you think, Tammy?
That's phenomenal.
It's a big deal.
That is a really big deal. It just goes to the power of the relationship.
Yeah. Well, and see, this is the game. Now, here's the game that AI can't play. We're going to get into how you do some of this here in just a minute. We've got to get our referral mindset, right first, and say that the real game is we got to play the game of referrals. If we sit around waiting 8 to 10 years for the next transaction, that's not the opportunity. And AI and artificial intelligence is competing in that space for you. And if you're not really building the relationship, you might miss that opportunity. And yet, if you're in a relationship with them in a way that causes you to generate referrals, you're also going to know their plans before the AI ever does. And you're going to get to use human intelligence and relationship, and you get to win the day by truly adding value, becoming that trusted advisor that Gary talks about. So let me, we talked about this being the new and revamped never-ending referrals, and let me just kind of share with you kind of how it's set up for you, and then we're going to get into some lessons today around the database. And never-ending referrals is now available to you in an online portal. What we heard people say, because the expectations right now are, how do we take advantage of this referral economy? We want to get into our database and make our database really work for us. And instead of 8 weeks of live webinar, and that's the only way we can get this, we want it all now if we can get it. And we've made that happen. So Never-Ending Referrals is now available on a portal. If you registered today, you would have the portal in your hands today. And so here's how this works. So this is an example of a portal screen. This one, our Market Center edition of Never-Ending Referrals, and tells you how to get in contact with us. By the way, in addition to the online online portal, We run 2 live webinars a month, Q&A and latest updates on tech as it relates to your database. And you'll have access to the online portal with tech updates and everything else for 6 months. And so it's going to be available to you. And so as you go into the portal, you'll have the lessons for each session, and they're broken down in small videos. We've got about 100 videos over 8 sessions that take you through all the practices and gambits of never-ending referrals. And they're just all high quality, professionally done videos, great audio, all the tools that you need, worksheets, workbooks downloaded straight from the portal. In fact, when you go into a lesson, here we are, session 1, any downloads as it applies to that session are going to be right there in the downloads tab. All your related videos to that session will be there for you. Tammy, what would be your thoughts around this platform? What's it doing for our students out here?
I love that you asked that. People, the feedback that we've had so far, folks, has just been phenomenal. People love the idea that they can sit in a weekend if they'd like to, and they can go through all of the sessions. They can go back and they can replay the things over and over again, where they really like to master the things that speak to them. And it's just been a phenomenal platform to really get people moving forward. So we're really excited about this.
Yeah, I had somebody comment on the fact they were getting ready to do a client event, and we've got a session dedicated to client events. And in fact, we got the daily group from Baltimore, Maryland that we feature there and interview, and they said, yeah, it just helped us get our mindset right around events. And here's what they really understood they were lacking. They said, we always thought it was just about the event, and what we learned was it wasn't about the event. In fact, I had a conversation with Gary Keller. You were there at that meeting, Tammy, where he said we've got a whole new 36 touch campaign around events, and the daily group they've been doing that for years, and certainly kind of a model for that. And that's just one of our whole sessions, is how to be successful with events. And by the way, it's not about the event. So Tammy, walk us through. Let's jump into some of the content of Never Ending Referrals. Kind of give you guys an introduction, and we start with this thing called the 4 laws. Talk to us about this, Tammy.
So Steve, we share with everybody, the 4 laws of the database, and these 4 laws are coming right out of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and they're just that, they're laws, and when you follow these and you follow them consistently over time, then that wheel that Steve was just showing you is actually what ends up as the result. So the 4 laws of the database are, first and foremost, you've got to build the organize, and you build it, and you've got to organize it. And I think one of the things that we found, Steve, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that people are told when they get in this business to build a database, and they do it more like it's an event rather than an ongoing process. And that means that you got to feed it. You got to feed it every day, much like, if we didn't eat every day, what would happen, Steve?
I might be a little lighter.
Right, exactly. Well, some of our databases are hungry.
Yeah.
And so, we've got to build and organize it in a way that it works for us. We've got to feed it every day. So we're going to give you some feed it strategies. Then you got to communicate with it. It's not just a matter of it being a collection of names in a CRM, whatever that CRM is. We've got to communicate with it systematically, that 36 to 37 times a year that they're talking about now. And then, of course, the fun part is we get to work everything that comes from it. So we're going to walk you through those 4 laws from beginning to end, and just come through some strategies that really relate to you as it does to your behavior. So what you're seeing on the screen here is, there are different behavioral styles, and there's no right or wrong around behavior. Behavior just is. And what you're seeing here comes from the Keller Personal Assessment, the KPA, and it just says that people generally fall into one of 4 or a combination of 2 of these quadrants. Whether you're the assertive personality, you make decisions, you move really quick, where you're going, whether you're sociable, friends are just people that you haven't met yet, and you just love to be around people. Maybe you're of the steady personality that, you're very calm, you're steady. People tend to trust you. Or maybe you're very structured. You like structure, you like rules, maybe you like numbers, you're very detail oriented. And, what we're going to do is walk through, there are different ways for you to feed your database. There are different ways for you to communicate with your database, all based on who you are. And so, do you know where you fall in these 4 quadrants? And if you do, that's really important, because now we're going to walk you through some different strategies, those strategic options that Steve was talking about, and some models that really speak to your behavioral style. Because contrary to popular belief, you don't have to be the highly sociable, you don't have to be a highly assertive person to be successful in real estate. What you really have to know is who you are, and then how do you best relate to people based on that behavioral style. So we're going to bring that into play in Never Ending Referrals.
Perfect. Thank you, Tammy. Tammy, and perfect example of that. So I remember when I started my real estate career, I had a lady that sat behind me. Her name was Jerry Misko. And she was a really high social, and she'd be on the phone, "Hey, honey, what's happening?" And all that's going on. And I remember one day she told me, now by the way, I'm a high assertive, folks. And I remember her turning around one day and she said, "Steve, you really want to do well in this business, just be friends with all your clients and you'll get a whole bunch of referrals." And I didn't say this to her, just her comment gave me anxiety, because I'm a high assertive. I mean, be friends with all my clients. I got 4 friends. I don't need any more friends. It was kind of my attitude. And then I later learned that I didn't have to be their best friend. I could be their trusted advisor. And
That's right.
that was something that was easy for me to become. And so in session 2 of Never Ending Referrals, when we get into that conversation, right now your drunk monkey might tell you, "Man, this is really hard for me because I'm wired a certain way." And it doesn't have to be hard. It's going to be about your strategic options going to be different, as you dig into it. All right, so let's dig into this thing we call a 1, 4, or 5. We talked about those 4 laws Tammy did, and let's talk about the stated goal of Never Ending Referrals is to get you a 10% return on your database. And grow it by 250 or more over the next 12 months. So if you've got 200 in a database, is to get 20 transactions from that 200, and then grow it by 250 over the next year. And so that, by the way, the next trailing 12 months, you'll get another 25 plus your original 20. You have an opportunity to really grow your business. And we do that by developing your strategies, 5 strategies that are just right for you around building and organizing it, around feeding it, about your communication strategy or system that's going to work for your business, and then your systems, working all that comes from it. And so let's break it down for a second. I want to share with you a fundamental. I should have set up a poll to see how many of you are Bold graduates on this webinar, because here's the interesting thing. I've asked, this slide you're seeing comes from Bold session 4. And I was out doing Bold in 2014. I'm one of the original Bold coaches, started in 2009 with Bold. And I had this slide, and I said, "Where are my Bold graduates in the room?" And I said, "Remember this slide from session 4 in the past?" I said, "How many of you are doing this little elegant process right here of calling 2 letters of the alphabet a week so that you have 4 contacts a year?" So Tammy, there's how many letters in the English alphabet?
26.
26. If I call 2 letters a week, how many do I talk to? How many weeks does it take to talk to my database?
13.
13. 13 times 4 is what?
39.
No.
Oh. Well, that's you talking to your whole database once a quarter.
Yeah, it's once a quarter, 52 weeks. If I call 13 times 4, 13 times 4, I said the question. 13 times 4 is 52. So if I just simply call 2 letters of the alphabet a week by last name, I talk to my entire database 4 times a year. And this is where we began with this journey. We developed a little thing we call doing the database 2. And we broke down the alphabet into 2-letter groups by last name. And B and E week is be the master of your database. I and Q is a week when you call your I's and Q's. And doing the database 2 is this fundamental thing. In fact, Jay Papazan, Gary's writing partner in the Never Ending Referral, in Millionaire Real Estate Agent, he said we've determined that the number one highest correlating activity to getting referrals is direct conversation with your database. It's face to face over the phone. and some select, messaging. And yet that's what correlates to referrals. And so we set up this gamified little system so that you could organize your database this way, so we could have a conversation around this, and it would be something that would become sticky. And it's starting to become that in the world of Keller Williams today. And so let's go back and let's talk about, the 4 laws. And database 2 is at the fundamental of many of the things we do. And yet let's start to dig into how would you start building your strategy based upon these 4 laws. And so we go into build it. And, Tammy, you want to walk us through these?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Or was I walking through these?
I think you were walking through those.
Okay, got my cue card wrong. Here, how is that?
There we go.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to the M on CRM. I think it just went sure. So one of the things that we do as we build it, we're going to take you right through. In fact, today in your handouts tab, before I forget, if you'll go to the handouts tab right now, folks, I've got 2 handouts for you. One is an outline of all the 8 sessions of Never Ending Referrals, all the segments of what you'll learn in each session. And the other one is the Never Ending Referrals Land of Links. It's several links, a link for getting enrolled in the program, a link for a testimonial video where we have, they just sent it to us a couple weeks ago, just put it on YouTube, from 21 to 98 transactions working DTD2 as the primary thing that made the impact on doing that, and then setting up their systems, DTD2 style, to work with that foundational concept. We also have some shorts on DTD2 explaining that process, and you'll find all of that there in the handouts tab with the 2 handouts. So the first thing we do is you get your CRM, whether it's Command, E-Edge, contactually, it doesn't matter which one you have, working for you properly. And so in the first 3 sessions, we really get into the tech. In fact, I've got a tech tutorial video example on that Land of Links form as well. And we take you through how you set up your CRM DTD2 style. Importing contacts. Now, Command's kind of a moving target on importing right now. And so we're just going to say, go to Command. If you're using Command, go there. And yet that's one of the things we were going to take you through, and how to populate your DTD2 groups, or we always start with A and W as the first, group we tackle, and it's part of our DTD2 rhythm. Now, and so we take you right in. So how do you set that up, whether it's in Command or E-Edge, and we show you how to set up your DTD2 group, set up your database to work with this elegant, simple system. So let's go to law number 2, feed it. So when it comes to feeding your database, one of the things, in fact, I'm going to send these guys as a follow-up, Tammy, there's something called the 5-star script. Can we role model the 5-star script for them?
Sure.
So this is ladies and gentlemen, remember we talked about feeding your database, and if you take in bold, you remember the yellow pages exercise. And one of the challenges with the yellow pages exercise is, they're really cold contacts. What if you could get warm business-to-business contacts? And so maybe. So I'm going to call Tammy, and Tammy's. So ring.
Hello.
Hey Tammy, it's Steve Schlueter over at Keller Williams. How you doing today?
Hey Steve, I'm doing great. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing pretty fantastic. How things been going? You enjoying all the pollen right now?
Oh my gosh, it's kicking my tail. How about you?
I can hear it in your voice a little bit. Yeah. Well, I tell you. Well, hey, Tammy, the reason for my call, I was kind of in need of your help. We're putting together a directory for our clients and friends of great service providers. And Tammy, as you could probably imagine, as a real estate agent, I've got people coming to town all the time that are in need of all kinds of services. I mean, they left wherever they moved from, and they don't have anybody to do their nails. They don't know who to go for yard service or anything, and they're always really counting on us. And we're putting a directory of people that are referred by our clients. We're calling it the 5-star directory. And Tammy, just curious, in the last couple of weeks, who's just blown you away with 5-star service? Have you had a 5-star service experience that you could share with me?
Yeah, actually, we just found this mobile detailing service, and Steve, you know that I'm on the road so much, and you know it's not always easy for me to get my car actually detailed, and I was referred to this person from somebody else, and it was phenomenal. I mean, my car looks like it is brand new.
Wow. Yeah, and so they just do a really great job. What's the name of the service?
Well, it was A&W Mobile Detailing, and they came to my house. You know, they brought everything, water included. They just showed up and did everything, and it was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, do you know who the contact would be over there?
Yeah, I do. Let me grab that, and I'm going to give you the name and the number.
There we go. So we got the name and the number. And so, Tammy, thank you for that. And I really appreciate that. We'll certainly see if we can get their permission to add them to the directory. And Tammy, would it be okay if we used your name when we called?
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. Well, thanks so much for helping us with the directory. And by the way, once we get it built, we'll get it out to you guys, tell you how to access it and all of this. Tammy, there's a certain category that maybe you can help me with right now. It's tax time, and I've had a lot of these folks calling and saying, who's a really great CPA or tax preparer? And honestly, I'm kind of looking for a new one myself. And Tammy, do you have a 5-star CPA relationship you could possibly introduce me to?
I do. I absolutely adore my CPA. He is awesome.
Yeah, well, wow, that's great. Who's that? Now we're going to
Uh,
move on. We'll move
yeah.
on from that. And so now and then so let's we'll put a bow tie on it, and then we'll talk about the script. So Tammy, wow, thanks for helping me with that. I really appreciate it. Now let's say Tammy did not have a great CPA. And then I would ask Tammy, I say, well, Tammy, let me ask you this. When I come across a great CPA, would you like me to connect you?
I would.
I'd be happy to do that. And so, Tammy, thank you for helping me today with this. And Tammy, like I said, we're always doing these kind of things to help our clients. Is there anybody right now that you know that might be in need of any real estate services, buy, sell, maybe make an investment that we could help?
Not off the top of my head, not right now, Steve. And
Okay.
I love what you're doing, Steve. This is really awesome.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else we can do for you?
No, no, it's been great catching up with you.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, you and Bruce got any big plans coming up?
Yeah, we're actually we're doing the Caribbean this summer.
Oh, that sounds fun. Which island?
Turks and Caicos.
Oh, it's amazing. It just went recently. You'll love it. In fact, I'll send you some stuff on the condo we stayed at if you like. It was really awesome.
Oh yeah, I'd love for you to do that.
Great. Hey, Tammy, thanks for that. As soon as I get in touch with the CPA, I will, when I find that right CPA relationship, I'll get you connected. Okay.
Yeah, I'll look forward to it. Thanks, Steve.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, we'll close the dialogue. Now think about what just happened, folks. So I got a warm business to business referral in the mobile detailer, and I got another warm business referral in the CPA. Now, if Tammy had been one of those people that needed a CPA, that would be great because when I ultimately found it, now I would have Tammy would be somebody that I could connect the CPA with. And I might have 5 or 6 people that said they need a great CPA. And when I find a great CPA, Tammy, what do I have in hand with that new CPA referral?
Well, I've got folks in my database to call. So there's my follow up. I'm doing what I said I was going to do, and I'm now sending business to this CPA. And we all live by this law of reciprocity. So we're more likely actually to get business from the CPA as well. It's helping everybody.
Yeah. It's one of the favorite scripts of our Never Ending Referrals community, folks. It's a really strong business builder because you get 5-star referrals, about every third call. And so, if you're really looking to build a business to business component to your database, the 5-star script is just an excellent way to make that happen. And we get into that in our business to business session, there in Never Ending Referrals. Well, let's keep going. So that was a feed it strategy. As we get into communicate, Tammy, I want you to take this on because now we're going to talk social media for a little bit. And it's just one of multi-channel communication topics that we cover in Never Ending Referrals. Walk them through, take them through social media. And we start with this little model. Tell them about this.
Yeah, so when we talk about social media, it's another way for us to communicate with our database. And we have a model that, our acronym is called CARE. And CARE stands for Connect, Alert, Refer, and Engage. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we go in that order. It's just, what are you doing? How could you, what kind of message could you put together to put out to your database on social media to connect with them? How could you alert them to something that was going on? Or, could you connect them to somebody? What would be a great referral? Or how do you get some engagement? So we walk you through different ways so that you can actually do that, whether it's a broadcast message all, to everybody that you're friends with, or is it a one-on-one message, that instant messaging? The other thing that we're going to walk you through is how do you set up those DT, D2 categories or your friend lists just like you have in your database. And our goal being that your database, your CRM, whatever CRM you're using, is also mirroring your social media. And in this particular case, we're using Facebook because it seems to be probably the most popular. And there's this little known secret inside Facebook where you can actually create these Facebook groups, or they're actually called friend lists. So Steve, you want to click to the next one?
Yeah.
So on that left-hand side of your home page, you'll see under Explore, you have to click on See More. So then you go to the next page, and you'll come to something that says Friend Lists. And you'll click on Friend Lists, and then go to the next page. And when you go to this next page, you're simply going to name the list the same DT-D2 categories that you would have set up in your CRM. So for instance, A&W, so it's A&W week. So you just type in the name, you create it, go ahead, and then you're going to add people to that list. So think about this. What if instead of putting a message out on Facebook and everybody in your friend list could see it, and maybe you didn't want everybody in your friend list to see it. Maybe you don't want all of your friends to see you talking about real estate all the time, or you're this week you're talking to those H and V's, or in this case it's B and E right here. All of a sudden you could put something out there that only went to those folks who had a last name that started with B and E. And what if you could put a message out there that could really let them know that you're going to be reaching out to them this week? Or maybe the message actually encourage them to reach out to you. So now while you're calling through your B&Es in your database, your social media has a message out there that's actually working for you, and it's encouraging them to reach out and call you. So now we're using technology to power you into having those same powerful conversations. So it's a leverage piece, and it's really helping you communicate. One of my favorite messages, Steve, right now that we have is with Keller Mortgage. And while we know that it's not available to everybody, it is available in many, many, many of our markets. So think about this, folks. If you could put a message out there that simply said, wow, this week I was able to save the Jones family $7,000 on a 0+ cost loan, and they're getting $1,000 back at closing. If this would work for you, please send me an instant message. Or something along those lines, where we've got these tools that we can use to attract people, and we simply have to compose the right message so that now we're attracting them into those conversations. It all comes down to us being organized and just using the tools that we have so that they're helping us, instead of being I'm going to say the black hole that social media can be. This is using social media with purpose.
Well, when you combine it with CARE, so you have a model for how you're looking at your communication, and then you set it up with DTD2 custom friends list, and then you could use the 5-star script. You could do that in a message to the group that you're going to call the next week. Just chunk it down, and some of them are going to send you their 5-star referrals, and then the phone call is thanking them for who they referred. And then you could simply follow up, say, well, hey, I had one other category I'm really working on. And you could just kind of dive into it that way. And so you could take a multi-prong approach with just one tactic. It could be social media based. It could be, a conversation. And we don't want to avoid conversations and hide just behind messaging because, we're looking for referrals and we want to be able to get to that referral dialogue. And at the same time, we're adding value. So, all right.
Excuse
Any
me.
last thoughts on this, Tammy?
No, I think that, what you're hearing from Steve and I is, one of the things that we know about working the database is everybody, for the most part, knows that they should be doing it. I think it's more, okay, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to come from a place of value, a place of contribution. And, I don't want to constantly be calling people and then feel like I'm begging for business. And, I think our goal with just giving you a tip of the iceberg today is just to demonstrate that there are so many ways to feed your database, to communicate with people, come from contribution, be that trusted real estate economist, and them experience you from a different standpoint, and then everything just naturally evolves and the business grows. Then you're
Perfect.
going to talk about the fourth law. Yep.
Fourth law is work it, folks. And one of the things that we get into throughout the program is it's really how do you manage follow up. Something we call nurtures. The research of Gary's team at the Millionaire Real Estate Agent clearly indicated that most transactions occur as a result of follow-up activity. And so when we get into the work it part, we're going to help you build a foolproof follow-up system, to make sure that those most vital nurtures don't fall through the crack. And how do you manage the different levels of relationship that you have with your database? What are the different tactics that are right for them? And so that I'm working it systematically, through this process. And also, of course, you're going to have a scorecard. And, we encourage you, even if you choose because you have it available on the portal to go through it really fast, we encourage you to then back up and then take it one session at a time for 8 weeks. Keep score of your activities and use the power of incremental learning. And then join us for the live webinars, where we handle Q&A and then we go touch base on the latest tech and what's happening there. And of course, you'll have access to the live webinars as well. So as I said, in the handouts tab, you have a couple of downloads. You have an outline of the 8 sessions of Never Ending Referrals. You have some links, one to get you registered. And let me tell you, it's $249. Gets you access to the Never Ending Referrals portal, which is 100 plus videos. It's the 2 times a month webinars where we're here for you, taking you through tidbits, latest gambits, the latest tech gambits. And then the 8 sessions essentially break down like this. It's setting the foundation, where we just get you into the fundamentals. Who are you being is, and you'll see it from the breakdown on the outline that you have. It goes into detail of each session and what's covered over 60 individual lessons. And who are you being is how to succeed in your behavioral style. And then we get into business to business and social media, some of which we just kind of touched tip of the iceberg today. Client events in session 4. In session 5, we get into how do you cement the relationship. And by the way, if you have questions, guys, bring them to the questions box. We'll hang around and answer any questions you have about the program, the process, and what to expect. Session 6, we get into being the local expert and trusted advisor. This is really helpful for those high assertives. How do I become that person? How do I position myself as the local real estate authority? Not sending out recipe cards, especially if I can't cook, right? How do I become the trusted advisor? And then we get into the other database in session 7, geo-farming, which is really back in vogue today. It's a hidden opportunity, and there's we take an approach about farming it what we call the bold way, for quick results in weeks and months, not months and years. And then we bring it all together at session 8 with the power of video, the power of the Database Warrior schedule, and bring that all together as we go there. So, guys, the database is not easy work. It's important work. We know the road to success runs uphill, and we would welcome the opportunity to be your partners in attacking this little opportunity that is your database. And we'd like to stay on here and answer any questions that you have, or aha. So we'd love an aha, because that's good feedback. So questions box, take it away, folks. Tammy, last thoughts while they're posting questions?
Sure, sure. It's Steve. The other thing that we have available for you, if you join our community, is our Never Ending Referrals VIP room, or it's our VIP page, if you will, uh, on Facebook, and it's highly interactive. There's a lot of great ideas. That's where we post a lot of the technology updates that are occurring, and we're every time we're creating scripts, there's new scripts that we're putting out there. We're constantly keeping up with the market of the moment and changing things as they need to be changed.
Yeah. So Terry asks, when does this start and will it be offered again? How often? Terry, it is on demand. So what that means is you register now and you'll get an email from MAPS Coaching with a button to press and you're ready to go immediately. You can start getting the lessons of Never Ending Referrals, the 8 lessons right there in your inbox on high quality video. And then twice a month ongoing, we have Q&A webinars, latest gambits, and all that. So if you'll go to the handouts tab and go to the link, there's a link for registration. There's some links with testimonials, some sample lessons there in the handouts tab that's available. And then of course you've got the outline. So you can do it right now, Terry. Yeah. And Keller Mortgage on Facebook, great idea. Says, is that Gaitha? Is that how you pronounce that? Yeah. A lot of lender contacts. Any ideas on how to handle that? So what would you say to that, Tammy? If you've got a lot of lender contacts, the people that are in your, we would call those your allied resources. How do we deal with that when we're promoting Keller Mortgage?
So, and that is such a fantastic question, and that's the beauty around those friend lists. And I love that you've asked that, because once you create those lists, you're actually going to put the people into those lists, and they don't know that they're on the list, by the way. So you're going to put the people on that list that you'd like to have on there. So you simply wouldn't have your lender contacts on that list. So if you were to post something like that, then your lender contacts aren't going to see it. Not everybody's going to see it, only the people that you've put on that list. It's a beauty of that whole system.
It's the beauty of, because if you broadcast just to everybody, that it creates that Pandora's box, right?
It does.
Yeah. And when you can broadcast message to a select group, and it's just the group you're going to call next week or reach out to next week one-to-one, it's queuing it up, right? And and they just, man, even if they didn't read it, they just realized they maybe saw a post. And by the way, your post is more likely to get through when it was targeted. It was sent to a specific list.
Yes.
You got all those crazy algorithms and everything we deal with Facebook. So you got to run these gambits to give yourself a better chance of being seen, of being heard in that game. All right. Any other questions?
Terry's asking, how long are they available? I'm going to assume it's the lesson videos. And Steve, correct me if I'm not wrong. That's 6 months, correct?
6 months. So you can go through it all in a weekend. That'd be a busy weekend. And yet you've got access to everything for 6 months. And by the way, because it's on a portal, we're constantly updating the portal. So if we have a new tech tutorial, which I'm sure we will have quite a few new ones between now and 6 months with Command Smart Plans rolling out, all of those things. Those are all updated to the tech tutorial tab, and you'll be able to we'll notify you when there's a new update, and you can go right there to the latest tech tutorial. And here's the exciting part, guys. We keep this checkers, not chess, meaning our intention is that it's simple. Anybody can do it. You don't have to be a techno wizard. So the gambits are not for only the extreme techie could handle.
Macarena is asking, when is the class for strategies based on your personality style? And that is our second class. It's all about who are you being for your database, and walking you through the strategies that actually work right for you and your behavioral style.
Yeah, so we have behaviorally based scripts that we give you. And by the way, we're also updating scripts with market of the moment scripts. If there were a big shift in the number of our markets around the country, and you're a member of our portal, on your portal, you would see a post with some market of the moment scripts. Hey, there was just a massive shift in the Northeast for whatever reason, because they said New England was going to sink into the, Atlantic or something. I don't know, I'm getting crazy.
Oh my.
And we would have a market of the moment script. It's what is that? And then the scripts are built around your behavioral styles. We'll have one for the more social folks, and we'll have different scripts for those that are more the assertive or task-oriented person as well. And just to be clear, if that's the one thing right now that you say, I really need help being my authentic self, because here's why behavior is important, folks. If you're not doing this in a way that's authentic, you won't do it long term. You'll be so uncomfortable all the time that you'll likely stray from it. There's always the exception, and yet we'll tend to stray. And so if that's your number one issue to kind of help you get clarity around your database, you could go straight to session 2 and do that first. You could be going through that session this afternoon. Simply get enrolled, and when you get the reply back from MAPS, press the button, go into the portal, and go to session 2, and you can get the behavior right away. Thank you, Greg. Great question. Thank you. Well, Tammy, I think that's got it. Looks like we got, oops, you're welcome. My pleasure. And so guys, sign up today. Join us on this journey to never-ending referrals. You've got, it was clear from the gap analysis that there's an abundance of financial opportunity out there. And, like I said, in that last focus group we had of 229 people, we had 59% had more than 60,000 in additional opportunity. Keep in mind, that's additional opportunity, and above and beyond what you're already realizing. So I trust that we'll see you on the journey. You can go to MAPS Coaching to sign up. The link is in a document that I have posted on the handouts page. On the handouts,
yeah.
It says NER individual land of links. If you'll download that document, all the links that you need are right there. So there's a PDF document under handouts. And then, of course, you have the overview as well. So I'll keep this up for a few minutes, and you guys will be good to go. Tammy, any last thoughts while we keep this up, while they're downloading documents in case they need to do that?
I think, I'm just so glad to see, these folks on this webinar and looking to do something different than they're currently doing, and understanding that there's so much opportunity in the database. Steve, you and I have talked endlessly about, we come back from mega camp or family reunion, and we heard it over and over again from the stage this year. I think, Gary stood up there and said, if everybody will just call their database, we'll single-handedly change the industry. And I know that, being an agent myself, it was never a matter of, hey, I don't want to call my database. It was more a matter of not knowing what to say, or, how do I come across so that I'm not just begging for business. And, once you come from contribution and you learn these different things that you're going to go through with Steve and I, that will never be the case again. And when we look at all of these aggregators that Steve pointed out, in the beginning of this webinar, like, Zillow, Purple Bricks, Open Door, things like that, they don't pose a threat to any real estate agent's business if they're in relationship with the people in their database. Those businesses only exist because that person was absent a trusted real estate relationship with a real estate agent that they would turn to. And I think that when we really wrap our heads around that, then, by working your database, you're just building a moat around your business that nobody can take away. Not Purple Bricks, not Zillow, not Trulia, not anybody, because you are the first person they think of when they think of real estate.
There you go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that does it. We're signing off. And here's the thing, guys. Sign up today and then do the work. And when they do, Tammy, what's going to happen?
Your referrals will be never ending.
Amen. See you, folks. Have a great day.
Have a great day.